Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how I paint the rocky textures and also the costumes of those two figures which are facing us from the back. So I use a small brush, a dry brush, to do the browns on the rock. So that is done by using the side of the brush, and we are going to have very little water so you can see all these white bits when I actually drag the brush on the paper itself. So you can see all these like very dry textures that are being formed, and this will really make it look very convincing when we have all these different kinds of dry brush techniques that are being done for this rock right there. So because this rock is actually facing the sunlight, so I actually leave white. Those white areas are actually the reflections of the sunlight that are on this rock. So on this rock we have all these different kinds of whites, right? So right now I'm just using that small brush to kind of like do some patterns on the floor, and for most of the floor right there you can see it's mostly white, but we have a little bit of textures right there which I'm using the small brush to actually do all these small little textures that is that can be seen because of all this roughness on the floor that shows the shadows. So again, using that larger brush, I'm moving on to the rest of the rock right there. So inside this rock right there we have all these browns that make up the brown part of the rock, and of course using that dry brush I am using that brush to make sure that we have all these different kinds of browns and blacks that are being added. So we have all these different kinds of browns, again using more brown at the top right there, so that will make sure that we have all these browns that are added in, but of course those white areas actually show the sunlight. Right, so very quickly I'm just going to use that small brush and we're going to finish up this part of the rock. Right, so these very amazing rocks and very amazing structures and formations can be found in this small town called Jaisalmer, and Jaisalmer is on the northwestern part of India, and this is an amazing place. If you have a chance to go there, do visit this small little town. It's called Jaisalmer, which is near to the Thar Desert. Right, so there's a fort here, and this is actually showing the women who are walking up and down the fort to celebrate the Diwali Festival on this sunny day. Right, so I actually used some of that grey to paint the shadows. Okay, so the thing is, to paint shadows we need to have grey, and to have grey we need to mix black with water, and you can see I have a lot of grey tones right there, and I'm just using this grey to help me with the shadow. So this shadow is formed because of the sunlight shining on those figures right there, and I'm just going to very quickly make sure that we have all these different kinds of shapes that make up the shadow itself. And so we have a little bit of dark blue, a little bit of warm tones there, and all these subtly different tones of different temperatures that make up the shadow. See, it's not completely gray. We have this reddish tones on the right hand side, we have some bluish tones on the left hand side. So these tones will really make this shadow look more interesting with this warm grays and cool grays, so that will be more interesting rather than just adding a neutral gray. So again, this shadow is formed because of the child right there, which later on we will do. And right now I'm actually using that brush to help me touch up with some of those rocks right there. Right, so using that brush, just trying to make sure we have all these textures that are being added. And again, after the shadow is dry, we can use a small brush to add in a little bit of details within the shadow itself. So we're adding in some white, some darker tones using the small brush. That will really help to add in some of those details. So using that small brush, I'm just adding in some of that lined which can be seen because of the shadow that's being formed. So there are a lot of lines on the floor, but they can't be seen because of the sunlight. And right now I'm just using different tones of yellow to paint her dress. Alright, so we have this larger brush which I actually used to paint all these yellows, and you can see that her dress right there is really consisting of a lot of yellow tones. But again, we don't want to make the whole thing the same color because we want to add some orange tones to the yellow, and that will add more interest to the costume itself. So always remember one thing is that we don't want to use the same color for the entire thing. We want to change the color so that it appears more interesting with all these changing colors, and that will really help us to have all these different kinds of tones and colors within the same object, and that really makes it more interesting. So using the small brush, I'm just adding in a little bit of the outline, some of the small areas, just using the brush to help me with the touching up of these areas. So just trying to add more strokes and folds, within that dress because of her body contortion. That actually creates some folds. And using that small brush, I'm just trying to complete her dress right there. You can see I actually use some lighter yellows and some darker orange, and of course a little bit of brown. So all these different colors will make up this very, very interesting kind of effects that we are seeing right now. And using the small brush, I'm just trying to add in the colors for her hair, and you can see right there that her hair is really attractive with all these brown tones and all these different kinds of browns and different kinds of cool brown, darker browns, lighter browns. All these will really make sure that we have the skin tones which are being added. So right now I'm going to do the pink and the red to paint the shirt of the man. Right, so this man again is facing us from the back. The back is facing us. So again, using some of the reds to do his costumes, and we can see that we have all these strokes that make up all these reds. And so again, we will see different tones of red, different kinds of reds that are being added, and all these reds will really make sure that it comes out more attractive because of all these different colors. So again, using that small brush, I'm just going to paint some of the back of his head right there using this brush. And so again, you see I actually left white that small little area right at the very top because that will show the reflection of the sunlight on the head, okay, for both the man and the woman. And later on we will see more obviously because once we do the surrounding areas, we'll see that we have these whites left out. So again, using that brush, I'm trying to make sure we have all these darker tones and all these darker reds that are being added. So here we have dark reds, we have light reds, we have the leaving whites for the details that will be added later on. And again, for this part that is coming out because of the wind, this part is actually, a little bit translucent, and later on we'll see how we actually do that. So right now I'm just adding in some of the yellow strokes and the brown strokes and the red strokes. So all these different kinds of strokes will add in more details for the costumes, and you can see right there we have a lot of all these different details because of the yellow strokes and the brown strokes, and all these different things actually make up this amazing costume that we see right here. Again, when all these details are being added, you can see that it's really coming out very nicely. And right now we are doing the transparent area of the costume right there. So using a little bit of that yellow, I'm just gonna do some of those strokes. And this part here we can really see through because of the material that is being made. Okay, the material that actually is used to make this costume. Okay, so because of the wind, it actually blows towards the right hand side, and then we have the use of this small brush that is helping us with the details, and later on we'll do some of those details on the pink, using some of the pink and some light reds. This will actually give us the transparency that we are actually trying to achieve using this brush right here. And so using this lighter kind of tones, and also doing the details that is behind that costume, that will actually show the transparency, right? So right now we can actually move on to painting some of the details, and because of these light tones, that actually shows that the costume right there is transparent, and this is actually in contrast with the darker areas at the top of the costume. So again, using that brush, I'm just going to finish up with a lot of all these, you know, different kinds of reds that actually make up the costumes. And we have this pinks, we have this, you know, this blacks, darker reds, we have, you know, all these strokes that will make up this bottom part, which is near to his feet. Okay, so right there we have all these, you know, different kinds of reds, and of course just painting his arm on the left hand side, just using some yellows and browns and orange to do some of the areas that we left white earlier. Again, filling up these areas because we have all these patterns. So right now we are moving on to the child, and I actually use different colors to paint the child's dress. Right now we are doing some dark blues, but of course it is not just this color, because we will move on to paint other colors on the child. So using the small brush, I just added in some of the lighter blue. So this blue right there is slightly different from his leg on the right hand side. So this blue right there, you can see, is a little bit more intense and a little bit stronger also. So using this small brush, I'm just going to make sure that we have these blues which are also added on his dress. Okay, on the child's dress. So we have lighter blues, we have darker blues, and you can see that this lighter blue is located nearer to the sunlight, the source of the sunlight, because of the sunlight shining on it. And we have all these different kinds of blue as well. So using the small brush, I'm just using a little bit of that dry brush technique to make sure we have all these strokes, okay, that separates the different parts of the dress. So right there again, we have the same dress. In the original photo, we see that it is actually the same color, but I actually added all these different colors to show more interest, and that will also play a very important part in capturing the viewer's attention when, you know, they actually see all these amazingly diverse colors. So leaving white again, doing the same thing, leaving white the top part of the head. So this is important to show the reflection of the sunlight, which we will later see when we do the other parts. So just filling up these parts with some black tones, and just trying to complete the dress of the child, and then later on we can move on to doing the skin tones of the child. But before that, just trying to touch up the head area of the child, and that will help us, you know, also to paint this lighter brown. This lighter brown is being added to show the skin tone of the child. So now it's on the face and the neck area, and then later on we'll move on to both the arms, right? So again, using all these different browns, try to vary the brown also. Make sure that it's not exactly the same color, but we have subtly changing colors, and that will really give a more attractive kind of skin tone. And even in this very small area, we can try to also change the tone of the arm. You can see right there, the part that is nearer to the dress is a little bit darker as compared to the rest. So now moving on to the shoes, and you can see that the shoe on the left hand side is actually facing us, so we can see the sole of the shoe. So just using that brown, again doing the shoe, and you can see right there the child is actually coming alive with all these details that are being added, and all these different kinds of details really make the picture, you know, the subject more rich. And just gonna do some final touch up for the shoes, the feet of the man right there, and we are almost done with these three figures that really show again the effects of changing colors, and that will help us to achieve all these different interesting effects. Hey everyone, it's KY Tom here. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button and comment down below. Do consider to subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Check out the links on the description below to find out more about my art, and I hope to see you in the next one.